maybe a spiritual desert, but he is an intellectual genius. So, up there somewhere, you can start naming some of these people, and they're kind of bloodlines. And I did a lot of research in Australia. I came across some stuff there. It's funny, you know, you find out more about your own country when you're in another one. Have you noticed that? Because they shut the doors on information about it when you're in the country. Outside, you pick up more. And there's certainly, you can chart bloodlines involved here back through sort of Europe, as Europe developed, back through to ancient Israel, the lost tribes of Israel, into Egypt, into Babylon, and I think, although this is speculation obviously, back through to what we call Atlantis and whatever was before then. And it could well be, because they talk about apparently the forces in the blood, it could well be that the end of this bloodline that's there at the beginning may quite well have been, I don't know, it's possible, an extraterrestrial civilization of some kind, which has since helped to manipulate these bloodlines in their position of power and takeover. Anyway, it's all speculation that's going to come out, because everything's going to come out in the next few years, I think. At the top there, beyond the Rothschilds, beyond the Rockefellers, because I met someone in Australia who is involved in films, and he's a guy I trust, he's a feet on the ground guy. He's done years, decades of research into this. And he's got a friend who at one time was sort of here somewhere, who spent time with the Rothschilds in Paris, in France. And he said two things from his experiences. He said, one, I felt that I was in the presence of evil. And two, they are terrified of something and someone. Now, I've heard this from many, many sources, because while this uses fear on the population, it uses fear on itself. The higher you go, the more severe are the penalties for not going along with it, because you get, the higher you go, immense material privileges. And if you don't do the business, then things are done. And there was a Rothschild in his 40s who was murdered in Paris last year at very, very strange circumstances. The papers immediately said it was a heart attack, and they wished to write it off like that until the hostel staff pointed out that he had a thing around his neck tied to the towel rail at the time. It was not much of a heart attack. And again, this guy in Australia, whose friend has been very close to the Rothschilds, he said what he heard, and it makes sense to me, although I have no proof of this at all, to make that clear, that he heard from a number of sources that there were some within the English Rothschilds, particularly along the younger generation, who wanted the hell out of this. They wanted out of this. They didn't want any part of it. They didn't want the baton, thank you very much. They wanted to get on with their lives. And this guy was one of them. And that was could well have been a sign to anyone else that wanted to get out, that you don't get out. You accept it, going in, the only way out is into another dimension. So at the top there, I think, at the top, are people interacting with either extraterrestrials or certainly a malevolent consciousness. A malevolent consciousness which has been given many names and is actually, whether it takes an extraterrestrial expression as we call it or not, has actually been the common theme through history of manipulating planet Earth in known human history going back to Atlantis and before. This has been the common theme. Obviously, people in physical embodiment go in and out, but this consciousness for me has been the common theme. And it's taken many names. One of them that's been given to it is Satan. It's the new balanced consciousness. And it's very clear that at this level, and a few levels below that, they are knowingly interacting with this consciousness in satanic ritual. I heard a story about a very famous, in Australia, a very famous politician who was found by policemen in a satanic situation. And when he was arrested and taken to the police station, he had his one call, and when he made that call, the next call to the police station was the police commissioner who said this guy's going to be let go, and the policemen were moved to other duties and have kept their mouths shut ever since. In terms of repeating what they told somebody I know. So they're knowingly interacting. And I think at the very peak, you're looking at people who have tremendous intellectual understanding of how to manipulate consciousness, energies, how to do things like mind control, manipulate, and things like in certain African tribes have been called voodoo, the evil eye. They can actually psychically attack people in a very powerful way. And it seems to me, kind of putting all the different evidence and views together, that is what a lot of these people here are terrified of, the power they have to malevolently use this knowledge. And I don't think those people are public people. I don't think that at the moment we can name them, but I think eventually we will, because the tide is turning and the veil is lifting on this stuff. But certainly there's about 13 families there at any one time, but the names of the families change. It's the 13 bloodlines that are the key and the offshoots of those bloodlines. So what happened, for instance, with the bloodlines, this is kind of interesting in relation to Canada, is that you have Britain, which has been a big centre of this, and then you have America, Canada, then you've got Australia here, New Zealand, and what have you, then you've got South Africa here. These bloodlines came out of Babylon, Egypt, and whatever was before, and eventually they make their way up here. They became the Celts, they became the Germans, they became the Danes, the Scandinavians, and they became the British. You can if you look at the British royal family, we don't have a British royal family, we have an international tribe. The royal families of Britain, Denmark, Sweden, cheers, bye, Spain, Holland, all of them are blood related. All of them. We've actually got, in Britain, a German royal family. Do you know the story? In 1917, the royal family of Britain's name was the House of, if I've got to pronounce it right, the House of Saxe-Coburg. German royal family. In 1917, the Germans and the British were knocking crap out of each other. They thought it'd be good PR to change it. So they changed it to Windsor. The name Mountbatten, because the royal family of Britain is now called Mountbatten-Windsor because of Prince Philip, the name Mountbatten is merely the anglicised version of Battenberg. That's all it is. They changed Battenberg to Mountbatten. That's where that name comes from. The other German royal family. Now, so these bloodlines, I'm going to go into this in detail in my next book. You follow the bloodline, it went through the Irish, through the Scottish, and into the English bloodline. And then when the Europeans and stuff started coming out to Canada and America, the bloodline was exported also. I forget what the number is, but someone did some research and wrote a book. I'm trying to get hold of it. Knowing the title would help, and I don't know it yet, but I know it's out there. But the presidents of the United States have actually come from about 4 bloodlines, all of them. We then go down to South Africa, because the British get everywhere. The bloodline's exported. We go to Australia. The bloodline's exported. So is the secret society network and structure that was set up there. In 1776, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, so this has come from Freemason sources, 56 signatories, at least 50 were known Freemasons, only one was known not to be. Washington was a Freemason. And there's an amazing building in Washington, D.C. What's a pentagram? You know, a pentagram looks like it's five-pointed thing, and then, they say it's. I can never do that one. It's like they call it a satanic symbol, right? You know the pentagram. You see it sometimes. Well, when I was in Washington last September, I heard this idea about the Washington D.C. road plan, that it contained endless satanic symbols and stuff like that. And this guy came to me and he said, did I know about it? I said, I heard about it, I'd like more information. He came back the next day, it was a rally thing, with a photocopy copy of this very rare book, which had them all in. Extraordinary sight. And what you've got this pentagram thing pointing down. And in the street, these are all streets and roads going like that. And right on the bottom of this pentagram, it goes right to the White House. And if you take a line straight through the middle of this pentagram, which I wish I could remember how to do, I think it's called 16th Street. And about here, just on the edge of it, is an incredible building. It's the Supreme Headquarters, 33rd degree Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and it's an Egyptian temple. Because that's where this goes back. This is where they get their inspiration from, the ancient world and the mystery schools and the knowledge passed on. You've got the pillars. You've got the depiction behind the pillars of the rising sun. The rising sun is the symbol of the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, the rising sun. And it's got sphinxes outside. And in the back, I had a look around the garden, through the fence. They've got a bust of George Washington, first Freemasonic president of the United States. So these bloodlines have actually been exported. And the same secret societies that have stitched up America and Canada and have stitched up Europe and Britain, they're the same ones that are stitching up Australia and New Zealand. Same names come up, same things. It's just what their hidden hand is. We've got time for one more. I think we've got time for one more, yeah. Go ahead. So here we go. Yeah. Right. It's a good way to finish. What's the step that we can take? Well, first of all, I wouldn't dream of advising anyone what to do in terms of action, because I know exactly what is right for me. End of story. All of us know what is right for us and the contribution we have come to make in this period of time. What I feel we need to do as individuals is to access that knowledge, because we've shut it down, most people, for this reason. People talk about, and a lot of these kind of manipulative New Age groups and channelers and stuff, not that all of them are, I'm not saying that, but there are some we need to look at. They talk about the need to seek enlightenment and to find teachers of enlightenment. Enlightenment's never gone anywhere. Enlightenment is sharing the same space as ignorance. For me, what we need to do is to remove the barriers we throw up between enlightenment and ignorance. Enlightenment's not running away, so we have to find it. Enlightenment's in the same space that ignorance is occupying, saying, for goodness sake, listen to me. Here I am. And what I feel we do, and what I think this conditioning is, you never had much to eat today, did you? What I feel it is, here we are, symbolically, obviously it's sharing the same space, but symbolically like that, we're multidimensional beings going on into infinity. But what we do through emotional manipulation and conditioning, like fear, guilt, I could never, bar mentalities, fear, we throw around us what I call an eggshell, a low vibrational eggshell, which shuts out who we really are, because we're terrified of who we really are, not least. This part, hence the name of this book that's just arrived in Canada today or yesterday or tomorrow. I call this part, I am me. Sorry, what am I doing? I'm getting tired. I call this part, oh my God, because it's terrified. And this part of us, I am me, I am free. This part of us wants to express uniqueness. It can see the nonsense of the limitations we impose upon ourselves and allow to be imposed upon ourselves. It wants to get in there. It talks through intuition. Oh my God is in the head. It's getting its inspiration this way. And it's at war with the intuition, because the intuition is coming from higher levels of consciousness, our own consciousness, not some external entity. So if we follow our intuition, what's the first thing that happens? Our intuition, multidimensional infinity, looks at the hassle-free zone and says, what a load of bloody crap, and it's out of it, isn't it? But oh my God's terrified of being here. Oh my God, what will my mother say? What will the neighbours say? Oh my God wants to be in the hassle-free zone because it feels more comfortable that way, because it's full of fear. And so we keep out enlightenment. And a lot of these New Age organizations that breed obedience and this is the only way in a creation as immensely diverse as we've got, no such thing as an only way. There's 5 billion only ways on planet Earth alone. We let go the fear of what other people think of us. We let go of all these conditionings that shut out who we really are. We get in touch with who we really are. At that point, that level of inspiration, you know exactly where you need to be and what your contribution is. Don't need anyone to tell us anymore. Don't need any teachers or gurus. It's coming from the source, our multidimensional